Welcome, wandering souls and lost sailors, to the Ship of the Dead podcast.
Ahoy, and welcome
to the Mörk Borg episode.
I recommend that if you have a copy of this book or the PDF, follow along, but we've done a pretty decent job of making it enjoyable without any visual assets. That being said, after we recorded this episode, the Mörk Borg boys released a free or pay what you will version of Mörk Borg that is text only. That's a little easier to read for those that struggle, but also anybody can get the rules and check it out. As you'll see, Jelke and I strongly believe you do not have Mörk Borg unless you have the actual printed book, or at very least the full color PDF, so make sure you check that out. Without further ado, I present
Mörk Borg.
My guest today is Jelke Ludolphij. Jelke and I have been longtime collaborators ever since, what was that, Secret of the Porvenir that we did?
Secret of the Porvenir, yes, I did some items for that.
I'll put a link to it in the show notes, but it was a 5th edition adventure that we did on our Creators Guild Discord server where all these item and map and music makers, we all collabed on this spooky ghost ship. And you did this, remember it was like a barnacle-encrusted concertina?
A concertina, that's the first time I learned about the word. It's like what a banjo is to a guitar. It's sort of like a concertina to like an accordion.
Yeah, if you have it in Sea of Thieves, it's the little thing that you grab and play pirate shanty. Yeah. Back then, you were running a Patreon called Tavern of Trinkets.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of magic items. I wrote them, illustrated them, and that died down eventually.
And the illustrations are like top tier, like incredible.
Oh, thank you so much.
But you've since moved on to Questiary. Can you maybe give us the elevator pitch to our listeners what Questiary is?
Yeah, so I do the graphic design and layout for Questiary, and basically with Questiary, we want to make bosses and encounters just this awesome package which you can just throw into your game, have a great time. And basically every week we make this big old illustrated boss with like a full background, quest hooks, and a full story. And then 6 minions. So technically you're getting about a monster every single day. That's fully illustrated with a description. We have some really cool people working on that. This is all 5th edition D&D. It's all fully laid out.
And I believe you guys recently hit your goal of enough patrons that you're doing color illustrations now. Is that correct?
Yeah. At first we started doing black and white. And now we actually have the support from a lot of very awesome patrons to do all of that in full color and still do it every single day. So yeah, it's really phenomenal now. I'm really stoked about it.
We did a little bit of a collab a few months ago, and I really enjoyed. You guys have all these really cool kind of naval aquatic monsters that are perfect for pirate theme campaigns. Well, welcome aboard the Ship of the Dead, matey.
Thank you very much, matey.
Jelke and I have been talking about Mörk Borg on and off for the past few weeks, and I realized that he just received his printed copy in the mail. And I was like, look, I want to have you on the show because I love talking to you. And we've always been spitballing ideas for several years now. But I thought it'd be great to take me, someone who's obsessed with this book, and you, someone who's newly obsessed with this book, and kind of go through it, dig into it like we almost found it hidden in a dungeon, and just kind of dissect what we think about it. And, maybe this could be people's intro into Mörk Borg. What do you think?
I love it. Yeah, no, because I'm obsessed with the idea of this book so far. I look at the cover and I go,
what was your intro into Mörk Borg, as they say?
I think someone linked me the site because I do a lot of layout. They were like, have you seen this? And so I scrolled through some of the screenshots and I was immediately obsessed. And then I finally decided I'm going to order myself a copy, and I've not opened it yet, but it's lying right next to me here. So I can't wait to get into this.
You haven't even looked in it
I've been peeking at the front page since we started occasionally.
I love this.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen the screenshots.
So this book is like a total reinvention of the concept of an RPG book. It's almost like a art punk zine smashed into like a 140-page book or whatever it is. It's written by Pelle Nilsson and Johan Noir. The original English translation of Pelle's writing is by Johan, and then Patrick Stewart, not the Star Trek Patrick Stewart, but kind of a well-known OSR author, gave it his love, if you will. You can really tell in the language that it's very, captivating. We're going to read a few of these tidbits out of here. So let's kick right in. So what are your first thoughts on this opening spread? This is one of the big things that you see in a lot of on newer books where they're really taking advantage of the end papers. Rather than this being like filler space, it is like the most important real estate in the book because you can put things that you need to get to immediately, right?
I love that. It's just sort of like a mini DM screen in a way.
It absolutely is.
You've got your occult treasures, you corpse plundering, traps and devilry.
I'm going to roll some corpse plundering, and I want you to read the result out for me. I got a 53.
You find a blood-stained knuckle duster on this corpse, who presumably is a duster of knuckles.
So what are your takeaways of this page? What are your thoughts?
I love the little illustration there.
Yeah, we've got kind of like a dead skeleton.
Yeah, obviously, I don't know really like what the flow of the game is like, so I can't tell how useful these are. But just like, it's phenomenal, just all the little details.
I have heard that the 10 D10 occult treasures, some of these are, I wouldn't say game breaking, but if you put them in a 5e campaign, you would have dramatically different game conditions all of a sudden. Let me see if there's some of these here that I can pull out. One of these is like really crazy. Anyone wearing the ancient blindfold becomes invisible to those who breathe, though the undead attack them obsessively and nearby corpses awaken in moaning unholy wrath. I mean, that's definitely going to change the condition of your game for sure.
That's sort of the one ring, though.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Which is not overpowered at all, I think we can all agree.
No. Let's move further in here. One thing I like to call attention to here is on the credits page, things that are just different about this book. First off, I really like how they have all the logos from all the different people who have worked on this book. Usually you just have normal credits. But my favorite thing here is the music that helped, which is a list of like all these doom, dark, black metal bands. And you don't really see that very often in an RPG. Jelke, what kind of music do you listen to? Are you into metal at all?
So I've fallen into the habit of just clicking on like make a radio out of a song that I enjoy on Spotify. And that is basically all I listen to. And I think I have a few playlists ahead of me here.
They actually have an official Mörk Borg playlist that you can check out. I'll put the link to it in the show notes, but they have one. I'm assuming it has all of these bands on it. That just seems like the logical next step, but it's very doom sludgy. Also, have you heard of this? I'm holding in my hands a vinyl record. This is called Putrescent Regenant. Basically, this is a album these guys did that's like a bog crawl.
Oh, fuck me, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, the vinyl record has Wayne June, who you might know as the narrator from Darkest Dungeon. He read the intro that we're about to get to over some like doom metal, and it's on this record, as well as like a bunch of background music for while you're doing this bog crawl, which is on all the papers inside the record. I thought that's so cool.
I think I know what a new Questiary product is going to be.
Are you guys going to start making vinyl?
$12 tier gets a vinyl every month.
$12 for a month?
Sure, yeah, we can make that work. Also, can I just say, I love the format of the book. So this is like, what, A5?
It's A5, yes. It's almost like they started as a zine and got too many pages.
Yeah, because it's just so nice to hold. As opposed to the 5th edition book, I can put this in my bag without worrying for the lifespan of said bag, which is just very refreshing.
Yeah, they definitely have gone into an extra level of detail with the embossing and UV varnished spot things, like his shield kind of shimmers with blood rather than it just being printed blood.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Oh, that is phenomenal.
Now, another one that really is going to blow your mind, on the spine, it says Mörk Borg, right? But if you look closely, there's a glow-in-the-dark spot ink on there, and there's a hidden message that glows if you put this thing in a blacklight.
Oh,
I'll
damn.
save that surprise for you if you get it into the dark.
I will get it blacklight now.
I think there's one or two other uses of that ink, but I haven't found them yet. So
yeah, that's my next week's set. I'll just listening to metal and searching for UV clues in the Mörk Borg book.
The wind from the west, from the sundered land. Rot rides it, and the stench of blood. Cursed walker, will you travel there? To the valley of the unfortunate undead? Our young ones are taken by the child thief Tergal, known for his vile crimes and alchemy of flesh. Distances shift, paths between places warp, as if this pale, lightless world possessed a will and bitter life, its mercy curdled to wrath over a too long age. Who are you? The grave robber with silver glittering between cracked fingernails? The mystic who would bend the world's miserable heart away from its inevitable end? Most likely it makes little difference. No one has seen the sun in years. The old care more for sacrifice and god offerings than their bawling spawn. Doomsayers are proven right time and again and embraced by hidden powers. Maybe it's best to surrender, to trust your own instinct and skill rather than the whim of the dice, before all is drowned in welcome silence. Life locked and failing in a dark fort.
Alchemy of flesh? That's the most... Yes. Can't get out of here like bloodmancy.
I also like that there are little tidbits like distances shift, paths between places warp. I mean, they actually did a zine later on with kind of travel distances, and the travel distances are all die rolls because they're like, hey, you don't know how long it's going to take to get to these places.
It's just so fun. Also, the illustration next to that. What is that, a cathedral?
Yeah, it's kind of like a silhouette.
Yeah, it's just a completely dark image with just a few highlights.
Another cool thing about this book, the graphic design and artwork is credited to Johan Noor and Dead People, because there is a bunch of photo bashed and hacked public domain art in here, but you don't know where the line is because it's public domain. And I love this. Like, did he draw this cathedral or did he find a cathedral and make it seem all spooky? I love it.
They really sort of nailed this fine line between a weird amalgamation of illustrations and just the right combination to create this very specific vibe.
Yeah, I think that this book is, even if you don't like the theme or you don't like the graphic design, it is a really strong lesson in that you can convey tone and theme to your readers or anybody. I mean, even if you were running a game, just with tone and graphic design approaches. You know, like if this had been on parchment paper and all the illustrations and art were very colorful, even if it was the same world, we would feel different about consuming it as our role-playing game players.
Oh, for sure. This is an absolute masterclass in like using graphic design to its fullest advantage to sort of convey what you're doing. I'm really curious once we get sort of to the rules sections to see how they also use that.
Let's flip forward. We're not going to read through all of this lore because it's awesome, but we probably don't have time for that. Another thing I want to call out is like this here on page 5, you have these like neon Pantone ink that they have paid extra for, probably as a stretch goal to get it into this book. But this pink, if you saw a picture on the internet, you can't display this pink accurately on a computer screen. I mean, even the shots that you've seen of this book on the internet, it kind of pops in a neon way that same with the yellow. Like, I really think that just that idea that we're going to spend extra money is...
Are you saying I'm looking at a unique pink? Something not touched by technology?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's printed
the last
on
bastion of tradition, yeah.
If you bought the PDF and printed this on your printer at home, you couldn't get that pink.
That makes me... That's worth the money, isn't it?
Let's look at page 8, which has the map of... I don't know if there's actually a name for the world.
Oh, that's a map.
That's what I'm saying. I know for all you listeners not looking along, but like this is I wouldn't call this a map, but it is, because it's got all these like little symbols, like tiny little gravestones for Gravitas, which is like the graveyard city. And there's little bridges, but it's so graphic design that it looks like upcoming EDM dark metalcore band show than an RPG map.
Oh yeah, it looks like sort of like a silhouette of a map, but it's just sort of been filled in with all these phenomenal illustrations. And this is all done by one person, you say?
Yes, but all the graphic design is done by one guy, yeah.
Bloody hero. Yeah, it's quite funny as well, because there's a few names in here. I mean, because I'm Dutch, some of these words are very similar to the Dutch ones.
Okay, like which ones?
Galg actually means like a noose in Dutch. So Galgenbeck presumably means something like New City.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are Swedish, so I'm assuming there's got to be some overlap.
I presume there's something going on there, yeah. Because at first when you look at it, it just looks like it's just a few simple things. And then the more you look at it, the more sort of weird details stand out to you.
Any in particular?
I just love that little field of upside down crosses.
There's definitely a lot of upside down cross symbology in this.
Also a bunch of like little people standing in front of because my instinct is to now say that as I would in Dutch, Galgenbeck.
If you ask those guys, they would say it however you want. I say Galgenbeck, but I'm a dumb American. I have no knowledge of other languages.
I do feel like this world is at a point where pronunciation is probably the least of their worries.
Yes, it's not like an Earth analog. Like, it's definitely its own thing, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Let's skip up to 12. I love this page. This is Kyrgyz and also Anthelius's ambivalence. Basically, there's this kind of queen figure in the land. I'll read the thing here. Anthelia is well aware time is short. Neuroses burden her. Why is everything so pale? So cold. She cries out for color and warmth. She drains the world of both with every glance, touch, and breath. Those who bring her vibrant life are promised great rewards. All fear to do so. Excuses are made, explanations found. The feeling of the Countess are fragile, and her powers absolute. Court life entails gray opulence, excitement, and fear. And you have this really cool, really dramatic black and white and yellow spread of this kind of queen like touching a subject, but she's ripped his head off. And you can kind of see this black, like it's almost like she's sucking the color from him or something. It's really striking.
It's really phenomenal. It looks like she just sort of lifted his head off. This is absolutely lovely. I almost got this as a shirt actually once.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, before considering the book, I wanted to like buy their merch just because of how much I love the art. One thing which is interesting is I love how the book sort of starts with the lore and the world and like the setting, the sort of the atmosphere first. Because what you see like with 5th edition, there's not even that much world in there to begin with, like in the core books.
Yes.
But usually I feel like people tend to sort of start with the rules and go, okay, so let's get all of this out of the way. Here's how you make a character. This is everything you can be. And then it takes a while to get to the point where they go, okay, and this is what you can be in this world. And it almost sort of feels like an afterthought. And sort of like, okay, you have the rules now. Sure, here's something you can use it in. Whereas here, they really sort of take the opportunity to start with, this is the sort of atmosphere and world this takes place in. And then after that, you sort of get to think, okay, and this is what I could do within this world. Or at least a world very much like it. Which is sort of love that it's really taking that opportunity to set the scene, if you will.
Absolutely. I think one of the great things about this kind of approach, more so than most books, like let's say you're running 5th edition. It's likely that you and maybe one or two of your other players own some or several of the core books, but it's almost more likely that only the DM has them, right?
True.
This is a game where if not everybody has this book, I can guarantee you it'll get passed around maybe at a party or when hanging out a few weeks prior just to get people interested. They're going to be like, wait, what is this? This is like a totally different thing than I've ever even imagined that D&D, if you will, in quotes, could even be. And I think like what you said, the lore being up front, you're immediately like, oh, the world is ending. If we go to page 16 here, this is the calendar of Necrobelt. You'll notice that there is a spot foil. This is actually a shiny foil ink on this page, which you can't appreciate in the PDF. Basically, the way this page works, the right is a list of 7 psalms, formatted like you'd see them in like a Bible. But it's really a D66 table. And on the left, you have a little table called When Will This Agony End? D100 is Years of Pain. D20 is a bleak half year. D10, a fallen anguish. D6, a cruel month, and D2 is the end is nigh. Basically, you and your group decide how long you want your campaign to last. Jelke, if you and I were playing a cruel month, we would use a D6. And then every new day in game, the GM or one of the players rolls a D6. And if you roll a 1, you read one of the Psalms. And the Psalms all change the world's condition. And after the 7th Psalm, the world ends. I often see in Mörk Borg Discord and their Facebook group, what are your guys' idea for like how the players could save the world? And I feel like, well, there aren't any provided in the book, and that's kind of on purpose, you know. Here, I'll roll as if we rolled a psalm. I rolled a 1-1. Yeah, okay, why don't you read a psalm, chapter 1, verse 1.
Mörk Borg, verse 1.
The city shall be made hollow. Of those who rest in hollowness, they shall not be seen.
So yeah, you could interpret that however you want. Maybe those people are actually invisible, or maybe that's more of a metaphorical thing. But there are some, like in Psalm 2, you've got,
And in 10 days and 1, the writings of sorcerers will be made pale as air, and the glass shall become quartz, and she shall see him grow stronger, and she reveals herself, and all shall be slain.
it's just like such a cool in-world thing that's also a game mechanic.
Because I was just saying, like, oh, I love how they're just throwing the world in here, and first of all, the world building. And then you look around and you notice, like, oh, they're hiding mechanics in here as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so well done.
Yeah, I mean, it even says at the top, the calendar of Necrobel, the nameless scriptures, transcribed by Onokschläger the monk.
Very German name, isn't it?
Very, yeah. Here's Psalm 7:7, the last.
All praise yet Sabunech, the underworld's nightmare, the black disk which stands before the sun. All praise Varhu, beaming with delight. All praise the fire which burns all, and all the darkness shall swallow the darkness.
You can just hear like the doom metal in the background.
Oh yeah, this totally has end of an Indiana Jones film mad speech to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see why they didn't include ways to save the world. Doesn't really feel like that's what they're going for.
No, definitely not. But I mean, if you want to do that, it's your game. Go for it.
And all was a happy ending is what the last page says.
yeah. The last page is just colorful rainbows. Yeah.
It's just that unique pink with like, good luck.
You wake up from a terrible dream. Thank God you're still alive.
Phandelver awaits. What a nightmare. This sort of feels like if an RPG was a nightmare.
Yes, yeah.
That's a campaign right there. Just your characters go to sleep in 5th edition and they wake up in Mörk Borg.
Yeah, I think it's this Mothership's Pound of Flesh. This is like a sci-fi OSR game, but they have a thing in there that's kind of like Twisted Matrix holodeck. And they even say, I mean, they don't call out Mörk Borg specifically, but they're like, hey, if you're looking for like a side quest, this is a great spot to interject another RPG. And I'm like, that's just such a cool idea that you're all your players jack in.
I love it.
And then they play Mörk Borg for a couple sessions, and then the world ends, and then they all wake up and they're back on the space station,
I love that.
Creating a player character. Without me saying anything, I just want to hear what you have to say. You can read as much as you want, and then let me know what you think about this character creation process.
Very, very unconventional player charactering. As someone who's, once again, quite used to 5th edition. Oh boy, so we got some nice illustrations of very angry-looking dudes.
In this world are those who seek riches or redemption. Some say the apocalypse is escapable, that it might even be stopped. And there you walk in discord and despair. One hand holds a 2d6 times 10 silvers. The other holds a water skin and D4 days worth of food. Your soul and your silver are your own, and equally easy to lose. To begin with, you are what you own.
So we've got a few options here for rolling what you own. So this is a D6 and then 2 D12s.
You just start rolling. So like, let's see, we'll roll here. Oh, I started with nothing. And then we'll go with D12, a silver crucifix, and a tent. A few things to call out here. A sharp needle, a magnesium strip, D4 monkeys that ignore but love you. So you can start with monkeys. That's very piratey.
Sounds like a family dinner, yeah.
Lard.
A medicine chest, an entire chest full. That's quite handy.
Yeah, I also like on the first table, the D6, that you can begin with a small wagon or a donkey.
Yeah, this is quite the range here they have.
Yeah, you can go from nothing to having a cart. It's very much a let the dice determine your destiny kind of game,
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you can have exquisite perfume or life elixir, or the aforementioned D4 monkeys. A few magic scrolls by the looks of it.
On the next page, we have one of the more famous spreads in this book. These are D10 starting weapons. The next 4 pages are the D10 starting weapons, right?
Oh shit, that's what they are. Fuck me. Oh, that's really well done.
We are looking at the first page here is number 1. If you roll a 1 on a D10, you start with a femur. This is like the page that people always, when they're like telling their friends about Mörk Borg, they're like, yeah, you can start with a femur. There's a whole page that's just a picture of a femur. Like no other, I've never seen an RPG prior to this that would have this size balls, if you will.
Did they specify, is it your own femur or is it someone else's femur?
They don't specify. I had assumed it was just a bone that you had found, but
I feel like if you really want to get hold of a femur, yourself is probably the most low effort way, isn't it?
I mean, yeah. Are you saying you're removing it from your body, or are you just like you're whacking them with your leg?
Just kicking people. They're saying you just kick people, yeah.
I assumed you picked up the femur on the ground because there are dead bodies everywhere and the world is ending.
That's a fair point. Very resourceful of you. Yeah, no, I think outside the box, pick up a femur before you remove your own leg.
Why not? I like the idea that you don't have a leg and you have to use the rotting femur that was your leg as your only weapon.
You sort of have to keep it out in like on one hand to keep yourself balanced.
Yeah, you have like some kind of crutch as well.
Okay, and then what else do we have here? We have a bow. So I don't actually think we've talked about the man here yet, have we?
Oh, yeah. I'm guessing this was maybe if it wasn't a public domain man, it's done in like an old style of art. But then he is filled with all manner of weapons, just impaling him. There is a staff stuck in his head, a short sword, a knife, a warhammer. Like all the starting weapons are literally piercing his body.
Yeah, they're essentially showing the weapons in action, all at the same time, all on the same person.
This is one of the 2 starting weapon tables. Just what a great way to set the tone, you know?
It's poor. Again, like, I would totally be comfortable just, if I were to play Mörk Borg, to just show my players the book, just let them look through it and just not even have them read anything. I just like, here, look at these pictures. That's it. You get it now.
You don't even need to explain the tone. Just be like, here. Oh, okay. I got it.
What are we playing? Here's a FEMA. Okay. See, there we go.
Yeah. Now, you'll see later on that some classes, especially like the more magic-y classes, they actually roll a lower die size for their starting weapon. So if you're like the, kind of wizard, and not that there's a wizard in this game, but you wouldn't be able to start with a flail, but some guys can start with a flails. So we get this double yellow spread, taking up lots of real estate to get us into the vibe and the theme again, rather than just having a list of equipment, which we do see on page 25 is in bright pink neon list of all the equipment that you could have. And I think that this book is probably 20, 25 pages if you took out all the graphic design.
So far, it's definitely like at least like a quarter of a page every time is just art.
One thing I like about this equipment page, 25, and I've heard a couple other people talk about this, is that, tables are a really, really great way to explain the setting to players and to the GM. And by showing what things are in the world, you're like, oh, okay, I can understand. If there are machine guns, you're in a much different world than when there are the kinds of things on this table. A few I wanted to call attention to: exquisite perfume. So there is perfume here. That means there is some form of society that has luxury. Also, a meat cleaver, which is listed. I think a meat cleaver probably exists in every world where they slaughter animals and eat them. But the fact that it's listed in the equipment list here makes it much more likely that you would buy a meat cleaver and use it. But then one of my favorite is the preserved corpse is in the normal inventory list, and it costs 66 plus D6 silver. Just so much world building just with a simple item.
I think I'm very drawn to the magnesium strip again.
Does that have some scientific use? Is it like a fire starter or something?
I'm sure it is. I'm not familiar enough with magnesium. Is it metal?
It's definitely metal. I think there's like a dungeoneering use for it.
It's good for the bones, I believe. It's for repairing your femur.
Yeah. Or maybe just like a candle in the dark, but a really, really short, crappy one. I mean, how long does magnesium strip burn? Oh, I think it's maybe a blinding thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's like this really bright powder.
It burns so bright that you can blind people with it. So I think it's maybe more of like a light source when you really need it. You like cover it with a jar or something, or you can use it.
Just a flashbang.
Flashbang, yeah. I mean, we just had a fun little escapade there trying to figure out what the heck this thing does,
This is basically playing the game, aren't we?
Yes, we are playing the game.
This is how it works. Arguing over the burning properties of metal.
Absolutely. Also, we have services like night in a hospice, drink, steady meal, bribe guard, bribe clerk, and bribe rabble. I mean, that's it. There's no other services in here. There's no night in a nice hotel. They don't have prices for that. They're really, like I said, setting the vibe. World building through tables.
Also interesting, I like how under beasts they have dogs, both trained and wild, but under rats they only have rat tame.
Yeah, like you can't buy a non-tame rat, or you don't buy them, you just capture them in the street. Like them being trained makes them worth 8 silver.
Fun fact, all the rats in the Mörk Borg world actually can do a little dance.
A very scary, evil dance.
Dance macabre all the way.
Okay, so that brings us to 26, which is the first actual delivery of rules in this game.
And also the first delivery of one hell of a painted full color image.
Yeah, this has got to be some public domain, but we're looking at like a very Renaissance, post-Renaissance, maybe apocalyptic painting. I'm sure there's a name for this painting. It looks like the flood has arrived and there are angels pulling their hair out and dying and people drowning, and they're all like kind of climbing this island in the middle of the flood. Really pleasant stuff. I'm really excited to be alive in this world.
Weirdly though, because there's like some small amount of color in it, weirdly decidedly the cheeriest image so far.
I was going to say, when you turn to this page, you're like, oh, some color. Oh, it's not just black, white, pink, and yellow. This is the first time, I think, other than some red that we got earlier, this is the first time we're getting like a full color image.
Yeah, this game is getting soft. People dying in full color.
Dude, come on, guys. Way to really drop the ball.
But yeah, we've got here a little slice of text. Abilities.
So this is a kind of classic BX-inspired OSR game. For stats, there are 4 of them instead of your normal 6. You don't roll 4d6. You don't pick where they go. You don't drop the lowest. You roll 3d6 down the line. And if you roll a 3, you're a -3 to that ability. And then the main mechanic here is you're rolling a d20 and you're adding your ability. So if you're attacking with a sword, you roll a d20 and you add your strength.
Okay.
One of the big things that's different in this game compared to 5th edition is that monsters don't have AC. They don't have an armor class. Monsters don't roll to attack. You roll to defend. So the DM says, like, this monster's coming at you. So then you make an agility check. And pretty much, unless the GM says otherwise, the number you're going for is always 12.
Right.
So as you get your game going, your players start to know, unless he says something, it's 12. I don't have to ask. So they can start making attacks with their damage die and know, I hit for 5 damage. Or he attacks you. I dodge. Okay, you take 3 damage. Like, it can go a lot faster than looking up all these different numbers, you know?
I love how streamlined that is. Yeah, because definitely half my combat encounters in 5th edition tend to be, so what's the number again?
Hold on, let me look. I got to pull up it's 14, but, no, you're going to get disadvantage. Yeah, no, none of that. There's none of that in this.
Oh, no, wait, I've got a magic item. It gives me a plus 5 AC.
I mean, there's a time and a place for that. I'm not knocking that.
I made magic items for a living. Please use my magic items.
Oh, yes, please do.
So, yes, you've got your 4 core abilities and then some modifiers to go with that. That's pretty basic so far. And then you've got some more other stuff here. So you've got your difficulty ratings and then you've got your carrying capacity. Is that like an actual thing in Mörk Borg? Because I know people tend to skirt around it in 5th edition a bit.
I'd say in the OSR in general, and specifically in Mörk Borg, it's much more of an important thing because you're not playing heroes. You're playing peasants or scum that survived beyond when they should have. And going into a dungeon and finding a heap of treasure, getting it out is just as much of a problem as surviving the monsters there, you know? So, I mean, this game doesn't have leveling up like normal. Basically, the GM just decides when it's time to get better, is what they call it. But that might be from you actually managed to pull 10 bags of silver out of that old crypt. You are now leveled up.
Leveling up by carrying silver. That's a dream, isn't it?
Exactly. Okay, if we move on, we're looking at the hit points. This is how your hit points are calculated. Now, one thing to interject here is that you can play Mörk Borg without a class. And if you do, then you'll use a lot of these standard rules. Like you just roll your toughness plus a D8. So if you had a +1 in toughness, you roll a D8, you roll a 5, you've got 6 hit points. It says in worst case, 1 hit point, but never less. I've played many games of Mörk Borg and Pirate Borg where people have 1 hit point. And it'll be like, I have this scroll, but if I fail reading the scroll, it does D2 damage to me. So I've had people be like, so I failed my scroll, am I dead? I'm like, yeah, you're dead.
It's that easy.
It can be that easy. Yeah.
This is, yes, and I know they'd be dead because it's very helpfully indicated here that at 0 HP you are broken and at negative HP you're dead.
Broken has a little D4 table where you could lose a limb or become passed out, or you could also still die on that table. Yeah.
Oh, they're going all the way.
You see here, violence is explained. Melee combat and range combat test different things. Presence is like the catch-all mental skill, but this game you make range attacks with your mental skill, not with your agility or dexterity like it is on a lot of more D&D adjacent systems.
Yeah, so what does a round of combat looks like? Do you just roll initiative?
So there's a whole spread for that. Initiative is really old school, really simple. The GM rolls a D6, 4, 5, or 6, the players go first. 1, 2, 3, the monsters go first. And then you just go back and forth. Now, depending on your group and how the size and how quick they are, you can also have them roll individual initiative. What I like to do when I'm playing in person is I actually have these little color cubes, one for each player, and I have them all roll, and then I line up the color cubes in their order so I can just call out like, all right, blue, because we do a lot of convention play. So it'd be like, blue, your turn, red, your turn. Okay, now it's the monsters. You know, it's a nice little way to do it. One thing that's really a big difference that I have to explain every time we run specifically Pirate Borg, there are no attacks of opportunity in this game. Because people will often be like, okay, I hit him with my axe. And I'll be like, well, hold on, you can do that, but you're on a a ship and there is rigging everywhere, like you could run away and swing around and catch a rope and then hit him with the axe while you're swinging. That'll do a lot more damage, you know? I really try to encourage like this kind of narrative style of play because you don't have to be worried about like, well, if I move away from these 3 skeletons, they're going to attack me.
Do you like use a battle map usually? Or is this very theater of the mind?
It's both. So I find that in Pirate Borg specifically, I mean, I make battle maps, so we'll often use them, but I don't hold myself to them like I would in normal 5e. Like I'm not afraid at all to just put up a picture of where they are. Like if we're playing online, put up a picture of where they are and then have everybody theater of the mind it. I think both is the answer though, you know, whichever your preferred style is.
Okay, now, but then I imagine like the battles get a lot more dynamic just because you have a bit more freedom in just sort of moving around and having fun with it.
Absolutely. I was playing a little Doom 2016 last night. I finished my monthly release. And I was like, I need to blow up some steam. And I was playing Doom and I was like, man, I really want to write a little adventure for this where you're rewarded for running around. Like in that game, if you stand still, you die. And if you run around, you live forever. 5e is not that way at all. You can't run around because everything will just swing at you. And this is like a nice departure from that style of play.
Nice. Yeah. I'm very curious to try it out.
So we're on this kind of rest, reaction, morale page. And these are all really throwbacks to Dungeons and Dragons, like basic expert, where every monster only has like 3 stats. And one of them is their morale. And when they take a certain amount of damage or their leader dies or the GM thinks they should be scared, you can roll 2d6. And if you roll under their morale, they surrender or run away. You know, like monsters don't fight to the death. People don't fight to the death unless they have to, you know. So that's kind of bringing back an old school mechanic here. You know?
Oh, that is fun that I included that because that always felt a bit off in a lot of RPGs. Is sort of like very sort of cannon fodder.
I think even 5e has rules for it, but they're just not toply present in the game system. Whereas this one, the monsters don't have a will save. They just have morale. By saying they have morale, it makes you think, well, they only have 3 things I got to worry about, so I might as well worry about them.
Yeah. Also, I love how they just sort of went fuck it to just measuring stuff.
Yeah.
They say here, in a normal round, you can move enough to traverse a normal-sized room.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does that mean, indeed? Weirdly enough, I know exactly what they mean.
Yeah, of course.
That's quite a departure from your feats and your squares, your hexes.
Yes. We're now looking at the powers section, which contains Unclean Scrolls and Sacred Scrolls. So, Jelke, this is the entire magic system on 2 pages.
Oh, get out.
It includes all 20 spells. The first 10 are kind of BX equivalents of magic user spells, and the second 10 are kind of like cleric spells.
So you've got your Unclean Scrolls and your Sacred Scrolls.
The one that always comes up, this is like so, for lack of a better way to describe it, so Mörk Borg. 10 on the Unclean Scrolls is death. All creatures within 30 feet lose a total of 4d10 HP. Now, having just heard that, do you think that includes the caster or not?
I would guess this very much includes whoever casts it.
It's like a self-destruct.
I love it. Nothing like a Blaze of Glory, in my opinion.
The other thing is that, you know, there's been a lot of discussion online on what the intent of lose 4d10 total means. Does that mean you roll the total and then everybody loses that much? Or you lose a total and it's like a pool, but then the caster decides where it goes. The real answer is like, well, what do you think it is? It's kind of a totally different approach from the like rules written by a rules lawyer specific operations manual, you know?
Actually, it's quite thematically appropriate because no one knows what happened when you die.
Exactly, yeah.
And then, of course, we've got death and then Wet'suwet'l blind your eye. That's a word. Yeah. The creature becomes invisible for d6 rounds or until it is damaged. I will say a lot of these do sort of feel like quite familiar spells, but just with very metal names.
Very metal names and sometimes odd mechanics, but sometimes not so much. There's one unmet fate. One creature dead for no more than a week is awakened with terrible memories. Basically, it's just resurrecting somebody. But the terrible memories is a nice little twist.
It's got a little twist, yeah. Undead flavoring. Yeah. So you said the top ones, are sort of like the necromancer, wizard magic. Yeah. And then the one below that are the holy ones.
Seems more like they were inspired by those spell lists. I mean, you know, Grace of a Dead Saint, D2 creatures regain D10 hit points each. It's definitely like a healing spell. Or Hermetic Step, you find traps. But I mean, there's still damage spells like Roscoe's Consuming Glare. D4 creatures lose D8 hit points each. So you get the full
Oh,
range.
nice. If you have like a scroll, can you like cast a scroll and that's it? Or do you like then know the spell?
I don't think it's specifically declared. Every time I've played this game, it's like if you have this scroll, you can read it all you want. I think in actual BX and old school essentials, I think if you have a scroll, once you read it, it disappears, like the scroll vanishes.
Yeah.
And these are more like there's no mechanics for learning these as spellcasters. It's almost like you find these ancient texts buried in crypts, and then when you have them, you can read them. Can you pass them around and your whole party can use them? I don't know.
Because like my instinct is 5th edition is certain spells are locked to certain classes.
Yes.
But you said you don't even need to have a class here.
You don't even have to have a class. Yeah. You'll see here in a second, we're going to get to the quote optional classes, which most people seem to use. There are some that are more spellcasty, but they're very odd. They're not like normal classes. You'll see.
Yeah, it is essentially a free-for-all.
Yeah. So we're at 38 optional rules. The first one here is omens. I've never heard of a Mörk Borg game that didn't use these. Omens are like the equivalent of inspiration, but you get up to D4 depending on your class every day, and it's much better than inspiration. You can re-roll a die, you can lower damage dealt to you, you can deal max damage, which is basically like kind of doing a mini crit, or you can lower any test. And when I play, these can apply to anybody at the table. So if like a player is about to die, you can spend one of your omens to have that last attack roll or dodge that they failed, let them re-roll it. So this is really the page that makes this game not as deadly, nearly as deadly as people seem to think it is.
They're doing it in a fun way. And you have like a set amount of omens when you start?
Yeah, it's part of character creation, and each class has either a D2 or a D4.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
We'll skip ahead to the optional classes.
Oh, we've got that lovely pink again.
Yeah, here we're looking at the Fanged Deserter. I mean, if you read this guy, all the classes are written just like that. They come with a few basic modifiers to like their stats. And the way they work in Mörk Borg is when you go to roll those 3d6 at the beginning, these actually tell you to roll different numbers in some cases.
So if you got your 2d6 times 10s and 2d omens.
Yeah. He starts with 2d6 times 10 silver and D2 omens, but you see over on the right,
it's silver,
on the right under abilities, build like a bull, roll 3d6 plus 2 for strength. So I found in play that may not even be enough to give you an extra modifier. It's not roll 3d6, look up the table, and then add the 2. It's 3d6 plus 2 for your strength. So you have a better chance of being better at strength, but not that much. But then there's always a drawback, like these guys aren't that smart, so they roll 3d6 minus 1 for agility and for presence.
Because it's quite interesting, because Fang Deserter, are they sort of combining class and race into one here? How does that work?
There is no race in this game. I think the default assumption, at least for me, is that it's a human world.
I like that. Yeah.
But, I mean, it doesn't say that. There's no explicit description about race. There are no mechanics in here as is for modifying your race, like a normal role-playing game. But you'll see, like, if you flip forward, Fang Deserter, we've got Gutterborn Scum.
This illustration is absolutely giving me flashbacks to when I was a teenager and you'd have like Jeff the Killer and like those weird creepy pastas. This is like, I cannot unsee that.
I mean,
man.
like this guy starts with, you roll D6 for their bad birth. And one of them is mother hanged from a tree outside Galgenbeck. You fell from the corpse. Like, that's so dark.
Guys, what I've always wanted that in an RPG is a bad birth table.
I mean, this is definitely not the like, oh, my family was burned by orcs and now I became a wizard. It's like, you literally crawled out of your dying mother. That's terrible.
Now, this is absolutely someone who DM'd games and they got all these characters, like, and they're all orphans. And instead of going like, let's change it up, they're like, you're not going far enough, you coward.
Yeah. We also have the Esoteric Hermit, which is kind of a more spellcastery one in that he's got eldritch origins instead of his bad birth. Abilities like Speaker of Truths and Master of Fate, Hawk as a weapon. Definitely a little bit more of the old man. I mean, Esoteric Hermit, yeah,
It says it on the tin. The stone of your cave is one with the stars. Oh, these are great. Also, like, I would just want to reiterate how much each page and its design sort of reflects what this character is all about.
Yeah.
So, like, with the Guttenborn Scum, it's just this weird, scribbly art with blood splatters, very chaotic, very wild. And then the Wretched Royalty is just sort of this weird sort of Piranesi type wood etching,
it's an etching
almost.
of some kind, yeah. Or at least if it's an original, it's designed to look like an etching. The other thing that I've always really found inspiring about this book, especially looking at the Gutterborn scum. I think coming from 5e as an illustrator, it's really easy to be like, everything needs to be top level illustration. Like it has to be at that top level or people aren't going to think it's a professional adventure or book. And this book is basically like, fuck that. Particularly this Gutterborn scum looks like it could have been drawn by the Gutterborn scum at a young age, like you said, as a kid. And that conveys like more to me about the tone of what this class is about.
Oh, for sure. I think just in general, like the book just makes me smile. Not because of the
not the content,
or the bad birth tables. Just looking at it, it's just like you can see they had fun with it. Like I can look at this page and go like, oh, they just sat down and went like, how can I just make this the dopest shit ever? And just have fun doing that. And that absolutely shows through.
Let's cut to 62. Feel free to look through the monsters as you get into this.
Oh yeah, once again, the full variety on display.
A lot of these seem to have maybe their Swedish names. Like for the Wraith, it says Rat, W-R-A-T, and then it says Wraith underneath it. Maybe Belzy is the name of this monster.
Probably comes from like Beelzebub.
Yeah, something like that. But it's a blood-drenched skeleton. And this is like the standard format for Mörk Borg monsters. So you've got no hit die, just hit points, morale.
Okay.
If they have armor, which we didn't talk about yet, but armor is one of the more unique mechanics in here compared to, say, 5e. And then 2 different attacks, a short sword or a knife, or 3 attacks, bone, knuckle. And then all the ones in the book that are listed in these colorful spreads all have a special attack. And in this guy's case, he skulks about and possibly soundless, attacks by surprise, can mimic voices to lure victims, but can only repeat what it has heard. Attacks on them with piercing weapons are DR14. Any strike doing 5 or more damage destroys the skeleton completely. So I like these specials because they like deliver some theme to you. Like there's mechanics and themed are like mixed together. It's like, this is how this thing will work, not just an ability stat line, you know?
A lot of story potential sort of baked in here. Looking further on the page and you've got your captured and destroyed. So I assume there's almost like sort of monster hunting.
I mean, this is not explained. Here. It's just every monster has these silver values for what their corpses are worth. But there's no mechanics given for who will buy them. There's just prices given. It's world building through what information you're providing.
I love it.
So briefly, the armor mechanic, basically, if a monster has armor, like we're looking at the next page over, the Lich has a Necro barrier. Whenever anything takes damage and it has armor, it just rolls that die amount and subtracts it from the damage. So rather than having like an AC that grows and makes you harder to hit, you're always the same amount of difficulty to hit. But if you had D2 armor, if you took 3 damage, you'd roll a D2. And if you roll a 2, you would only take 1 damage.
Oh, like that. That's a very nice and elegant little way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. If you look on the armor page, which we saw earlier, the higher your armor, the more drawbacks it has. So if you're looking at the armor page, you'll see the better your armor is. Like if you go all the way up to heavy plate, it does minus D6, which is great. That means if you take 8 damage, you could negate up to 6 of it. But agility tests are +4 and defense is +2, meaning that you're slower and you're actually easier for monsters to hit, but you're going to soak more damage. So armor comes with a built-in like mechanical disadvantage.
Does anything in this game not, though?
I feel like the only mechanic in this game that is only good for you is the omens.
Yeah. Weirdly, the omens are the most positive thing we've come across so far.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even talk about the arcane catastrophes, which if you roll a 1, I believe, when you're trying to cast a scroll, you go to this catastrophes page and man, bad stuff happens.
I think this is my favorite take on goblins I've ever seen.
You mean from an art standpoint?
I think from an art standpoint, yeah. It's sort of like an overambitious shark, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got a huge nose and he's very gaunt and he's got like a little goblin dick or something, or maybe it's his tailbone.
Thank you for pointing that out. I had not noticed that. I just assumed it was like a little loincloth.
Great thing about goblins, which immediately delivers in any game that you play with. I think the mechanic says they all carry a curse, basically. And if they attack you, hit or miss doesn't matter. You catch the curse. And if you don't find and kill that goblin, you will turn into a goblin in D6 days. If you put this mechanic in you're a level 12 5e character, you've been playing for 6 months, this goblin attacked you, he missed, you're going to turn into a goblin in 6 days. Like, people would be pissed, I think. In this system, I just like the idea that you like get in this fight with these little goblins and then like a couple of them run away into goblin caverns and you have to like go into the caverns and you try to kill all the goblins just so that you can stay alive. And then if you've seen The Ring, where at the end they're like, oh my God, somebody else watched it. Like, oh my God, we didn't kill the one goblin. And the guy falls over dead because he didn't successfully find the right goblin, you know.
I love how they sort of perfected, I feel like, sort of creating these inherent sort of small but very important stakes. You don't save the world here. You have to prevent yourself from turning into a goblin, and that could just be half a campaign. That's a campaign hook right there. World shit, a goblin ran away, you have a week to track him down.
Or a day, maybe.
Or a day. So then you've got your Bent, your Zakuma, the Rat, and then Lady Porcelain, of course, which is going to give me nightmares for the coming future.
This is actually one I would not include in my games. I don't like creepy dolls in horror movies. I'm like, nope. I love horror movies. Give me satanic horror or body horror or sci-fi horror or like monster gore or serial killer. Creepy dolls, no thanks. Not interested.
Also, like, it's a photo, which is like has been slightly painted over, so it's like even more eerie.
It's like a photo of a doll face with kind of like scary stories to tell in the dark approach to the inking and coloring, if you will. Okay, the troll. It's got 32 hit points. It's got thick hide. It's easy to hit, so it's only DR 10 to hit it. But it has a special morale mechanic, and it'll run away. But when it runs away, it increases its HP by how much it heals its HP. And you add a D6 to their damage every time. This is like classic horror movie where the creature gets more powerful when you attack it, so you have to kill it.
I hate how, even like this, because this game has like a mechanic for monsters actually like running away or surrendering, they've actually still managed to make running away a bad thing.
Yeah.
Between the goblins and this troll.
Yeah, you're like, oh, don't run away from the goblins. Don't run away from the trolls. Not if you want to live.
You may only have 1 HP, but at least the monsters get scared of you.
This is another great, rich concept for a story hook. This troll, it could be hounding your players throughout the whole campaign, and it grows. Every time they run into it, it's more powerful, He does 2d6 to start, which is a lot in Mörk Borg, especially when you start with 1 hit point sometimes. But he is guaranteed every time they fight him to have another d6 of damage. So, that means he's rolling 4d6 an attack if you fight him 2 other times,
Yeah, it's one hell of a troll. I love these little loot tables. They sort of peppered throughout the image.
200 silver captured, 70 corpse. His horn is worth 25 silver. He kind of looks more like a weird bear mixed with a ox.
Yeah, because when you said troll, I thought I didn't see the trolls scrolling through this.
It's almost like troll is just the translation. What's his actual name?
Arbind?
Yeah, is that an R or a B? There's definitely a B for the second. Arbind.
Yeah, it's sort of like a big bear cow, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Squished into the corner here, you've got your classic zombie. Weirdly, the zombie has a longer stat block than the dragon.
Yeah, this is another classic zombie trope. Kind of like the goblin. If he bites you, you will die and rise as a zombie.
Yeah. They immediately throw the story and lore in there again. Because the only cure or vaccine is said to be found at the peak of a pale mountain within an infinitely miserable forest of dark leaves. If you don't have a lot of budget for vacation, the infinitely miserable forest of dark leaves. I've definitely been camping there when I was young. I've had those vacations.
All right, let's hop ahead to the adventure. The Rot Black Sludge, or the Shadow King's Lost Heir. This is, I think, from a design zeitgeist, if you will. They've kind of re-established how you can write an adventure with this. The thing you're going to notice is that the theme of the book dramatically changes. The paper type has changed. We've gone from this glossy, bright color to this black and white print, uncoated paper. We have left the dramatic graphic design behind, and now we have gone to like some of the more clean layout I've ever seen in an RPG. We've got some hooks and a little bit of story on this location in the first thing. We've got some random encounters with also some like rules of where they should be used, how often they should be used. One detail I really like on this page is that the entries for random encounters, you roll a D4 and the icon for them is a triangle like a D4. I think that's very clever use of iconography.
Oh, that is very useful, yeah.
But then as we get into the adventure, you'll see that we have a map of this little dungeon, little mini dungeon. But on each page, first off, the page numbers are related to the number of the dungeon room. And then you have a mini map on every little page so that you don't have to reference back to see where it relates to other rooms. Yeah, I mean, also you have every exit and entrance to each room is described at the bottom of each room. As a DM, you don't have to do any guesswork about how you can get in and out of this room. And then finally, it's a 2-column format for the dungeon, but the main column is larger. And then the like sidebar, which has the mini map, has the stats and little descriptions of every monster that you run into. So despite them listing 10 or so monsters earlier in the book, there's a whole nother set of monsters in here to help you be like, oh, I get it. I can make guards, and the guards have 8 hit points and they have morale. And oh, that's all I need for a monster in this game.
This is a masterclass in just using layout to your advantage. Because like I mentioned earlier, I do layout for work, and like occasionally you see like interesting things come along, but very often you see sort of a lot of RPG layout design is sort of descended from 5th edition, which is, I will say, I love the layout of those books, but I think also it's very much could just be a Word document in terms of where it's placed. Whereas what you're seeing here is that things are actually very specifically presented to fit the page and fit the format in which it's in. So it's just phenomenal to see that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes too from the design process for those more traditional, larger, I don't want to call them corporate RPGs, but when you have a large company working on a thing, they have a design team and a writing team that comes up with what the thing's going to be about. It goes to editing and gets approved. Yeah. Then it goes into layout and they put in the art orders. Well, like here you've got the guy doing the layout also did the translation and the art, and he's working very closely with one writer. So like, hey, we need a table on this page, or hey, we're going to like they're much more nimble as a design team, and they can make decisions about the book that you couldn't happen if you had hired a writer and then you no longer had that writer on staff, you know?
No, I think, like you said, I imagine all of those layout artists just get the text and get some art and then put this into a book. Whereas, here you can very clearly see that they went, oh, this is what we need for this page. We can make that work. And then looking at the adventure itself. So what's sort of the elevator pitch for what's going on here?
I mean, basically you've got, the king's son is missing and you've been sent to this like accursed den to try and find him. But it's, kind of a wacky little dungeon crawl. It's not like you've walked into a castle keep. It's like there's this weird girl with a greenhouse and there's this pit of sludge with a monolithic sized island in the middle of it with skeletons just playing violins at the top. And there's a weird sludge snake thing that lives in the sludge. And then the big boss guy is this like kind of blacksmith dude. It really does set the tone for this world where you're like, oh, this is a dark, weird place. Kind of reminds me of like 9 Inch Nails music video or like just some really weird, dark horror fiction. And that the emphasis is not on verisimilitude, it's on like vibe and theme, I think.
It's sort of got like if Neil Gaiman or like Tim Burton were like death metal.
Yeah, that's a great way of describing it.
Sort of Coraline with like blood and a bass.
Yeah, like if Coraline was like rated R and it wasn't like a happy ending, it was like, oh, the world ends.
And then, like you said, there's this sudden transition to just a black and white format.
Yeah, I think I actually heard, I think maybe it was Johan saying in an interview that, you remember that girl earlier who sucks the color out of the world? As we get through the book, she's sucked the color out of the adventure. I never would have thought of that, but I think that kind of informed the process, and I think it's very cool.
Do you have like levels here?
So you don't track levels. On page 33, we have getting better. So when the GM thinks that you should get better, you follow these steps. Basically, you roll a lot of dice, 6d10. And if your current hit points is lower than that number, then your hit points go up by d6. And then you roll a d6 against each one of your stats. And if you rolled higher than your stat, it goes up by 1. So if I have a 3 and I roll d6 and I roll 4, my modifier goes to +4. But they can go down. If you rolled a 1, if you ever roll a 1, your stats actually go down a level. So it's almost like, oh, I've taken mental anguish, or I've physically been injured, or I can't withstand the stress of this world. So it's not necessarily getting better. In Pirate Board, we call it gaining experience, because it's not all, if you come back from war, you're not always better,
Oh, shit. We can't have any nice things, can we?
No, we can't.
I love it.
You could definitely TPK in this dungeon. It is very possible.
I think there's like 2 more pages here.
Yeah, you just have basically the end papers. More random tables. You've got a dungeon generator for making a random dungeon.
Nice.
Some adventure sparks. There's no table of contents, so the end you have a really great short index and rules reference for pretty much all the rules you need for the full game can fit on this one page. I mean, you need to look up scrolls and stuff, but all your attacking and skill tests and the mechanics for casting a scroll are all on this back end paper.
Yeah, like you said earlier, just the fact that they also even use the insides of the cover here. And then you've also got a table here. Even more reasons to risk one's life. They are not beating around the bush, are they?
No, they are not. Overall, Jelke, what's your impression of Mörk Borg?
I think, first of all, what just sort of comes across to me is it's so well thought out, and there's so much just love put into it.
Ironically,
yeah, that's where all the love went. No, but it's just like there is so much just care put into it. Just looking at like every page, I feel like I can almost just see an excited conversation happening somewhere about like making this book. Again, like nerding out about design and layout. Fucking masterclass. And yeah, it's just, I don't think I've ever seen just any RPG match its visuals this well with what it's trying to convey. And yeah, it just feels like a super complete package. Because I think, say, again, like a 5th edition book, you can put that into a Word document, just the text, and I think you'd still be getting roughly the same. And then you pull up the occasional image and it's like, oh, hey, nice. Yeah, okay, that's what that looks like. Grand. But like, it isn't integral to anything. Put this into a Word document, you would not get the same effect.
You would not have the same thing. Yeah. The two are married.
Yeah. If I were to recommend anyone this book, which I absolutely will, I think top of my list is definitely like, you get this book, you get like a complete package, and you get something that works entirely together as a whole.
The other thing is that the book is a dramatically different experience, in my opinion, than the PDF. And I think that that's not so much the case with the 5th edition adventure. Often it'll be like, I have it on D&D Beyond. Like, do I really need the book? This, though, is like, it's so, the end papers and like the way the adventure pages are numbered and like the way it's laid out, the tangible experience of the book is actually not equivalent to just looking at it on your computer screen.
That's just phenomenal. See, you've got your special inks, you've got your... Hell, the last pages, they made it with a different type of paper to give it a different feel. Mm-hmm. It's not even visuals anymore. Like they've gone for the full sensory experience here.
And you've got a printed bookmark ribbon. It says Mörk Borg, Stockholm Cartel, Occult Ortsmästare Games. That's, I can't say that.
Mästare?
Well, bravo, guys.
Oh, yeah. And I think it even smells like rotten corpses.
There's a spot in here. So we're looking at the calendar of Necrobell here. The one thing I wanted to draw attention to is that when the world ends after misery number 7, the game books, your lives end here, burn the book. There are YouTube videos of people burning their Mörk Borg books. You know, I don't think they actually thought people would really do that, but what a thematic way to end your game.
What a way to go. Don't have this. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Get the damn thing. Really, really solid stuff overall.
Do you think there's anything in this book that you will bring into your own layout process?
I mean, definitely like sort of looking at how the adventure was laid out. I would love to play around sometime with a little mini map. Yeah. I'm actually laying out an adventure right now, and I'm also doing the maps for that. And I am very tempted to see if I can like get a few extra days to do that and try out to have like a little mini map in there and like have some descriptions in the sideline.
I did mini maps in The Haunting of Deathlight Cove, which is like a piratey 5e ghost pirate thing. And I just took huge inspiration from this adventure. Every page has a little mini map with like bullet points of what is important in that room. And I find like it's much easier to run things when those are in there.
Also, I don't think I'm like confident enough to go this wild with fonts as they are here. But there's absolutely a lesson in daring to be unconventional and making that work here.
I think that was kind of the point with this project was, you know, I think Johan has a pretty strong graphic design background. I think he was like, you know what? I want to see how far we can push it. The results speak for themselves, whether you like them or not.
For sure. Can't wait to play this. Can't wait to subject my friends to this absolute tome of misery, if you will.
Atrocious game.
Hold fast, wretched sailor. We brace for the broadside barrage.
First RPG system you ever played?
D&D 5th edition. Well, I thought it was D&D 5th edition. I didn't find out there were rules until 2 weeks into it. I just sort of went with it.
Were you like playing with a group and they were running it? You were a player?
I saw a YouTube video of someone playing D&D, and I watched, I think, about half an hour and was like, I can do this. And I started a game, but I hadn't registered. There was like a rule book to it. So I was just sort of like, oh, you just make up a story and then you just do stuff. And you roll dice occasionally. So it took me a while to actually realize what D&D was beyond just the collective name for being weird with a group of people.
I love that. What's the most recent RPG system you've played?
A little game called Artifact, actually, where it's a little Zine game and you play as not the hero, but their artifact, their weapon, as it travels through the hands of heroes.
That's cool. System you'd like to play but haven't yet.
The Mörk Borg.
Okay, you, Jelke, are suddenly a 5th level PC. What class are you?
Bard.
Add an entry to the What's in the Cargo Hold of the Ship of the Dead D100 table.
A slightly disgruntled ghost ship cargo hold inspector.
Favorite size die?
D8, I think.
Favorite fantasy or sci-fi movie franchise?
I will have to be quite basic here. I think that is just Lord of the Rings.
Questiary monster or weekly theme you are most proud of, or your favorite?
I think my favorite monster is this thing called a Dwelfling. And it's essentially this sort of like a humanoid tapir who seeks out a house or an estate and just sort of starts caring for it and just sort of becomes completely bound to it and gains these Beauty and the Beast type powers where it just animates like the furniture and gains control of the house with layer actions. I would say that is probably my favorite monster, just sort of from a story perspective.
Are you going to any conventions this year?
I might go to something called Castlefest, which is in the Netherlands. I was also just at the UK Games Expo last month, which was really good fun.
Oh, nice. How was that?
It was really fun. I met a lot of other creators.
Did you meet Che?
I met Che, I met Peku, I met Alex from the Macatographer, Ollie from Moonlight Maps.
It's like, those are all my homies, but I've never even met any of them. Yeah.
I have met Tom Kartos, and he looks even more magnificent in person, I can tell you.
He must. Tom and I are going to talk he's going to be at Gen Con, so we're going to sit down and do a little chat.
Phenomenal. Yeah, really great guy. Actually, also met Johan Noor there.
Oh, nice.
Who did the graphic design for Mörk Borg.
Video or computer game you've logged the most hours playing?
Witcher 3.
Do you have a favorite D&D spell?
Catapult, though it usually leads into very long discussions about what counts as an object.
Yes, it does. It's a very abused spell in my experience.
I love it.
If you had to choose an RPG setting to live in, what would it be?
Humblewood.
Excellent. Jelke, anything else you want to say? Where can people find out more about you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really have social media. I'm very boring and old school like that. If you want to get in touch, go to patreon.com/Questiary. Also has a Discord server attached. I'm pretty active over there. Plus, you get access to a lot of really cool monsters.
Questiary Discord is the best spot. Is it a Patreon only Discord, or can anybody join?
It is public, I believe. People can also just email me at jelke@ludolphij.com. That is sort of my work-oriented email. So if anything pops in there, you can put this in show notes if you want.
Yeah, or someone is in need of layout and design.
Absolutely, yeah, hit me up.
Do you do illustration anymore?
I like doing it occasionally.
That is so wild to me. I feel like you're so good at illustrating. The fact that that isn't your main thing is wild.
I think I very early on sort of when I found out I had a knack for illustrating, that very quickly turned into people paying me to illustrate things. And I think that very quickly sort of started draining me creatively, because suddenly everything I was drawing was for people. I burned myself a little bit with doing it too much commercially. So now I'm sort of trying to find that balance again.
You got to do it commercially like I do. Just only work for yourself.
That's the dream.
Or people you really want to work for.
Fair point. Yeah. But no, I'm absolutely open to talking shop or helping anyone out with anything. So yeah, send me an email. I'll probably see that.
You've been listening to the Ship of the Dead podcast. Email your questions, comments, and buried treasure tips to shipofthedead@limithron.com. You can support the program, join our Discord server, get early access to new episodes, and instantly download hundreds of battle maps, assets, and adventures at limithron.com/Patreon. Tiers start as low as $2 a release, and you only get charged when I make something new. Pirate Borg, my rules-light, rum-infested hack of Mörk Borg, is available for pre-order at pirateborg.com. Ship of the Dead is produced by Limithron LLC, our audio editor is Matt Kepler, and our music is by Alexander Miller.